Hello everyone, I am Crawlers and this is another episode of Ridiculous Loadout. As you may already know, this is a series I started way back when in the Battlefield 3 days, basically whoring myself out for cheap views, running a suggested loadout from one of you in the comments section. So, today's suggestion comes from the best Battlefield 4 veteran who suggested the silencer is not included loadout. And this is a real fun loadout suggestion, actually, real specific too, which I like. And it consists of the PP2000, as you can see, the Cobra sight, which I gotta say is by far the best sight out there. It's uncluttered, it's very straightforward, and it lets you aim and take a shot easily, especially because it has that gap between the lines in the center, so that you can still see the target when you're aiming at it, so that you can still uh, know the entire time that you're gonna hit it because you can see it without the lines intersecting. So, a good sight all round, and probably why Level, Kappa, and Matimio run it all the time in their M416s and M16s in Battlefield 3. So, besides the Cobra sight, the best Battlefield 4 veteran also suggested specifically no silencer on the PP2000, which is actually a good thing, I guess, as it turns out, and a tactical light, which we all know by now is yet another new flashlight in a sea of overbloated Battlefield 4 gadgets that actually, well, it interestingly enough, it serves a function. Unlike the standard torch from Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4, let's say, which can either be turned on or off, the tactical light actually turns on only when you ADS with your weapon, so it's automatic. It's made to blind people up close, which unfortunately goes against the entire idea of the engineer class, which is made for bigger maps, but more on that in a second. The best Battlefield 4 veteran also suggested I use the Unicorn pistol, which, to be honest, is quickly becoming my favorite pistol of the game, and which he suggested I equip with a 3 times scope and a laser sight. Actually, you know what? The laser sight is a very good accessory for the Unicorn pistol because, I mean the Unica 6 obviously, because it makes the hipfire reticle very small. And another thing that I'd probably put on it is the compensator, then, because it helps with the horizontal recoil and seems to actually be used in real life on the gun if you take a look at some photos. But I seem to have gone far, of course. The Battlefield 4 veteran also suggested I use the slams and the shroud, so I decided to play Conquest and put it to some vehicles that I encountered. I um, I don't like playing Rush too much, especially in Battlefield 4, as I always seem to be shredded to small bite-sized pieces when I start playing like an idiot and rushing ahead of the team. So I mostly try to stick to Conquest. So what is the PP2000? Well, we're all pretty accustomed to it being in FPS games by now, and it's been in quite a few. It's a cool looking Russian PDW or a submachine gun with an Uzi style pistol grip handle and a magazine that goes right into it. It's made for self-defense purposes for special protection forces like the Russian Secret Service and the Ministry of Internal Affairs, or the MVD in Russian. It's comparable to things like the P90 or the MP7, where it's made to fire an armor-piercing round to punch through body armor. It's pretty small, looks badass, and it has an integrated front grip and an optional tactical light that is almost bigger than the entire gun itself and goes on the bottom of it like this tactical light here in Battlefield 4. And it also has a few fun small features, like for example a spare magazine could be hooked up to the back of the gun and act as a butt stock. Or for example, the charging handle that actually flips down when not in use behind the front iron sights. But in Battlefield 4, this particular gun and, well, actually all PDWs fall exclusively under the engineer class, which I've made it no secret I'm not a fan of. That's because, well, the engineer class it's made to fight vehicles on larger maps, and on larger maps you really need a more accurate weapon at range than a PDW. So that's why engineers in Battlefield 4 almost always go for the carbines, which is the new all-class weapon, unlike Battlefield 3, where the PDWs were an all-class weapon. Meaning, of course, it could be ran with, say, support and have bags of ammo going for it, which is another problem out of many that the PP2000 has in Battlefield 4. That's the low backup ammo count, or too few backup magazines. The flip side of this, of course, is that you don't have to reload as often in Battlefield 4 as you would in Battlefield 3, because unlike Battlefield 3, the PP2000 in Battlefield 4 has 44 bullets in the magazine and not 20, which, again, admittedly could be extended in Battlefield 3 with the longer magazine perk, but, you know, you don't have to spend the perk on it to modify it here. So, the PP2000 in Battlefield 4 does a maximum damage of 24 at 8 meters, which drops off to 12.1 at 55 meters, which admittedly is a little less of a punch than it did in Battlefield 3, meaning at least one more bullet to take down an opponent is needed. This already sets it back a little, as you can imagine, and with its low rate of fire of only 650 rounds per minute, this PDW is second only to the UMP-45, which obviously packs a much bigger punch in its damage potential. And in fact, out of all the PDWs that do like 900 and 1000 rounds per minute, this seems kind of out of place with a damage model that's mediocre at best and a muzzle velocity of only 450 meters a second, which again is kind of middle of the pack and not higher as one would think, to counteract the slow rate of fire. The reload time clocks in at a mediocre 2.55 seconds for the tactical reload and a not so quick 3.5 seconds for the full reload. Its upwards per shot recoil is 0.24 degrees, which interestingly enough just slides into first place as the smallest vertical recoil of all PDWs in Battlefield 4, and a first shot multiplier of 1.65, which is second best among all PDWs in Battlefield 4. And what's interesting is that unlike some other PDWs, the PP2000 in Battlefield 4 has a nearly equal side-to-side recoil, so it's likely to pull straight up when spam firing, so you're likely to get a lot of finishing headshots if you aim it right, and the vertical recoil should be pretty controllable with that slow rate of fire anyway. Obviously the hipfire is pretty tight as with all PDWs, so a laser sight here wouldn't hurt, but honestly I was raging a little bit in my first couple of rounds that I tried to record this loadout. Reason being that I got my ass handed to me in small pieces, and I wasn't enjoying it one bit. Maybe it was the fact that I drank a little before the running of this loadout. So I was playing somewhat worse than usual, if that's even possible. Or maybe it was because I was just trying to run it in close quarters, which is a big no-no with this kind of slow rate of fire weapon. I mean, I was outgunned by any try-hard scrub out there with an AK and being filled up with lead before I knew what's what. So, I mean, it's an ambush weapon for taking targets one by one, flanking them and taking them by surprise, which is honestly the pun I was going for here. And once I sort of figured out the playstyle and changed a couple of maps for my recording and went for conquest, I got out of, tight, small situation, close quarter maps where the slow rate of fire, as I said, is a bad handicap to this weapon, and started taking enemies one by one. It started working for me more or less, and I started having a bit more fun. Oh, and also real quick before I end this video, I am trying to render upscaled recordings from 1080p to 1440p, and I need someone with a 1440p monitor to give me feedback, because reason is I can't check it myself because I don't have a 1440p monitor, because well, I have a 1080p monitor, but I still would like to find out if people watching this full screen on their 1440p monitors are getting a good picture, because obviously I recorded in a lower resolution and then upscaled with a little bit of sharpening added to the picture during rendering. It's also a much bigger output file size, so if people really don't like it, I'll just go back to 1080p, because uploading's a bitch. Also, check it. Don't check it on just regular 1080p monitors, because I only want feedback from people with 1440p monitors, because anything less wouldn't be a clean test. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Ridiculous Loadout, and now, because I don't feel like suffering alone, uh, the best Battlefield 4 veteran must also run this loadout and upload it to YouTube, and I'll accept the link down below in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Please rate and share this video as it helps my channel grow. Check out my other videos at the end of this one, and remember, in Soviet Russia, YouTube subscribes you.